All right, welcome to Room 101. I'm Ashley, I'm your host. But more importantly, let's meet our contestants.
Yeah, great. I'm Molly Hopp. I'm the managing partner of Havas Market.
I'm Katie DeLeo, and I lead the CPG business at DoorDash.
And my name is Megan Conahan. I'm EVP of Commerce at Direct Agents. We're an e-commerce growth company.
Well, without further ado, let's kick it off. So as Jim mentioned, each of our contestants will write down one thing they want to banish from the retail media world. Once we hear and debate, each of those topics, we will then turn it back to the audience. You guys will get a QR code and vote for the one that we want to banish forever and to go into Room 101. So, Molly, let's start with you.
Okay. Write it out first?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm a slow writer, apparently.
I have a feeling the slides might help you out there, too.
Great. So mine is inventory shouldn't matter, the customer should.
Okay, why?
Right now, we're still funding the storefront and not the customer. If you think of the big dogs, Walmart, Amazon, they're still getting the lion's share of retail media, and this is a mistake. If you think about the customer journey and you think about the customer experience, that's really what you should be funding. And so it's really thinking about the intersection where it's the unified data, it's the unified signals, and it's ultimately really thinking about the cultural moments that drive commerce, and really through that thinking, that's where you're gonna win, because that's where you're winning with the customer and not just thinking about where all the inventory in terms of audiences, as well as the actual inventory lives.
Any thoughts on that, ladies?
Okay, I know we're competing, but I completely agree with you because we see the exact same thing. We see many times better performance when we really think about just following the customer, not just forcing everybody to retail media, and really thinking about are they engaging with Meta? Are they engaging with TikTok? What are the other places we can potentially reach them? And we find it to be so much more impactful, both from a user engagement standpoint, but then also from a performance standpoint. We really see very strong performance, much higher ads to carts when we think about the customer first experience. So agree.
Yeah, I also agree, which isn't helping much with debate.
I'm gonna win.
I'm gonna have to start disagreeing. Can't be so agreeable.
But I think it's really important, even within retail media, to understand the differences in consumer behavior and how consumers shop differently on different platforms. So I can speak to DoorDash, but we are driving a lot of net new consumers to the convenience and grocery occasion. And we tend to lean more heavily on discovery because of that, because they come and they want to understand what they can buy and what's available. And so what you need to do on DoorDash is very different than probably how you set campaigns up on Amazon. Yeah. And so I think the thoughtfulness of trying to set up against the consumer insight is really what drives success.
You know what's wild? Not one of us mentioned AI in our responses. And I do think it is important, though, so now I'm going to do it because I crossed that off our bingo card. But LLMs, right? And if you think about discoverability, that's where you need to show up for the customer, but also where your product and your brand needs to be discoverable and found. And that's where you have to be thinking about the customer first, too. Yep.
Good tie-in with AI. Where are you seeing this work right now?
Where am I seeing this work? In terms of what is winning, in terms of, I guess, being an agency person, I guess, I'll bring it back to Havas, is that, again, it's starting that conversation in terms of really sitting down and not identifying yourself as what channel you own, identifying what role you're playing, but again, really thinking about what is the overall business KPI and how do you associate the right customer experience to that KPI, and that's, again, where you're really going to win.
Awesome. All right. Katie.
All right.
Let's see what we'll be banishing here.
All right, it's not pretty. Fragmentation. And I don't know if we can banish it as so much mitigate it, just in terms of how unwieldy sort of the retail media landscape has gotten. So kind of thinking through a couple of dimensions. First, I'd say, why is there so much fragmentation? Well, one, because there's so many retail media networks. I think there's something like 250 now, and the average brand is engaging with 5 to 7 some upwards of a dozen. So that's a lot of overhead to manage. Then you go into these UIs, including DoorDash, and we all have a different UI. We all have different capabilities. At the product level, we're all offering different metrics and different attribution windows. So it's really hard to kind of look at things apples to apples. And then reporting generally for e-commerce is hard, right? There's not like a single source that rolls up everything. I mean, I think back to my brand days when, every 4 weeks you waited with bated breath for your like Nielsen or Circana drop, and you could look at all of your data in one fell swoop. Like that's really hard nowadays, just given how complex the market's gotten. And then you've got orgs who also are like another layer of fragmentation. It's not retail media isn't a single entity. There's a lot of different stakeholders. There's different budgets, shopper, e-commerce, in our case, last mile. And so that adds internal coordination, which creates a tax. And like all of this fragmentation means that marketers are slowing down, and to your point, Molly, aren't able to always take advantage of the full opportunity because they'll only focus on a handful of retail media platforms. So I think in terms of like what brands can do this, again, it's probably never going to go away, but where it can be improved is one, like for the advertisers, it's org. It's thinking through having a single threaded owner over retail media. Doesn't mean that person owns everything, but they're rolling everything up. 2, there should be a very clear North Star. Like, are you aiming to drive category share? Is the goal for an org to bridge offline category share with online? Is it sales lift? But everyone should be kind of marching against the same tune. 3rd, as you work with partners, understand their role. Like, do you want to work with an agency and have them totally set your strategy? Do you want to set the strategy and have your agency be hands-on keyboard, but being really choiceful about that interaction? And then 2nd, I think partners, agencies, third-party platforms, retail media networks can also help. I think sort of simplification and access are principles that like we at least try to abide by as we think through our roadmap. And so, in our case within our Ads Manager portal, we try to be really making it a one-stop shop. So everything from being able to do run-of-site targeting to retailer level, to being able to look at not just campaign performance, but total business, and to start leaning into capabilities that go beyond like media, but also looking at things like catalog management, with the intent being like the more we can create a one-stop shop, the like easier we're making it for our partners.
I would love nothing more than some type of like standardization, especially in KPIs. It is so, we do a lot of normalization for our clients, but it is really a lot of work that goes into it. And even metrics change, right? It used to be called one thing, now it's called another, and it means something slightly different, but not totally different. And it would just be really great, and I think easier on everybody and a lot less work if we could figure out the fragmentation issue. But it's a really big problem.
Yeah, it's unwieldy.
Yeah, it really is. And like you said, I had no idea. I mean, most of our brands are like in the 5 to 8 retail media networks, and I can't even imagine the dozen when you get up to 20 or something like that. It's really impossible to manage. Yeah. So.
Yeah, the ladies in black up here so far are in full agreement. But
not much of a battle.
She's like, more fragmentation.
It should be a I mean, I do think something is a challenge is that we still, I think in a lot of situations, are letting the specific retail media networks kind of set their KPIs, and then we're trying to reverse engineer to connect the dots, right? And I do think that that's where both the client and the agencies need to be that central source of truth when it comes to measurement and everything around the business KPIs, right? Because I think that's one of the biggest drivers of fragmentation is really, and DoorDash is wonderful, but putting the retail media networks in the driver's seat, I think is part of the challenge that we need to continue to battle.
How much do you think agencies can like coordinate on kind of standardization, or agencies each taking kind of their own spin there?
I mean, I'd like to say that Havas Media Network and Market has done a really good job. I think one aspect is oftentimes staying in this kind of retail media space discussion is that we would look at media performance in one spot, and we look at retail performance over here and sales performance. And I think we've done a really good job of just, again, taking a much more holistic approach, at least when it comes to really the measurement aspect and having the central source of truth. I will say where there's, across the industry, and probably going back to a little bit of what I was talking about, is that up the river, up the, whatever the saying is, of really making sure that it's also informing your audiences holistically and understanding, who someone is when they're shopping as well as who someone is in the real world. I think that that's still not quite there.
I could almost make the case against or to keep fragmentation, because I think it was one of the reasons agencies are so urgent and important for organizations. Like people talk about, the death of the agency or whatever it might be, but the fragmentation, the continued complexity in this space makes it so important to have a group that really understands what's happening and being able to talk to you about that single source of truth, talk to you about like normalizing your data. So I think agencies are extremely important. They're doing a lot of that legwork, honestly. So.
They're almost moving into more of like a consultative role.
Oh, 100%. The execution-only agencies will, I think, struggle to keep up. I think that strategic vision is why people hire agencies today. So.
Yeah.
Cool. Megan.
Okay, so I'm gonna break the rules, and I'm really sorry, because I think I have two. I have one right here, but can I write two?
You
can tell me if I can do both?
You could write two.
Okay. And I apologize for my handwriting for everybody.
Can't be worse than mine.
No, it's really bad.
If anyone saw my card here, they would be
I have some
my
colleagues in the audience, and it's a running joke. Okay, I have two. I'll do one at a time. My first is incrementality. And before you come at me for this, I'm banishing the word, I'm not banishing the concept. Because incrementality, to me, has been one of the most abused words in the past 3 years, right? It's one of those things that lets us...
All right.
Yeah! Vote for me. Oh, it's not up yet. Sorry. It's been so abused. It lets us sound rigorous without actually being rigorous, right? Because you go into any pitch meeting in this industry, you're gonna hear incrementality 5 times in 10 minutes, right? 3 people in the audience, I'm gonna ask you what incrementality means, and you're gonna give me 3 different definitions, right? I'm constantly presented with this like IROAS metric, and I was like, oh, that sounds good, but you dig a little bit deeper, a lot of times it's smoke and mirrors, right? It's become this word that means everything and nothing at the same time. And honestly, retail media is at this like inflection point, right? We're just talking about it. It's getting increasingly complex, increasingly challenging to operate in. And if we want to all win in this next retail media moment, we have to be sophisticated. We just can't sound sophisticated, right? Because right now, any one of us could walk into a meeting tomorrow and talk about incrementality, and nobody would question it because, hey, it's incremental, but it's not real. And us all hiding behind that word is doing us all a disservice. So that's my first one.
Okay. Where are you seeing the use of incrementality working in the right way?
Incrementality working the right way, I think really is, we think about it like from a profit perspective, right? Because one of the challenges that we see with incrementality is that we'll talk to marketing leaders all day long, and their dashboard's always going up and to the right, right? But when we onboard a lot of clients, we are very profit-focused, contribution margin-focused agency, and we'll talk to the CFO, and the CFO is like, oh, it's flat. Everything's flat, flat, flat. So we're really thinking about it from an incremental business impact, not just incremental impressions or whatever it might be. It really does have to be around moving the business forward. And there are a lot of different ways we can think about it, right? It could be holdouts, it can be match market testing, it could be MMM, you could think about new to brand, whatever it might be. I just think we all need to say what we mean and say what it is, right? I think the other big piece of it is that we're doing a lot of grading of our own homework. And not necessarily agencies, but maybe agencies in some capacity. You talk to retail and media networks, they're saying they're incremental. DSPs, they're incremental, right? But true incrementality has to come from somebody who is unattached from the outcome. And so I think that's another really big challenge that we're facing.
Yeah, I would say we're definitely seeing more and more of a presence of the CFO and Rev Man in conversations in the last couple of years. Whereas when I worked on the brand side, you had a budget, you were told to just go execute as long as you hit your goals. But I love the push that a third party should almost define what incremental means within a respective org.
The only push I will give is that I am an absolute hater of ROAS, and
Plus one.
Same. Same.
and I will say that getting incrementality is something that people are sick of, is one step forward to really force all of us with our clients to realize that incrementality is what matters and that ROAS can't measure that. And so I fully agree that the gap is you need to align on what incrementality is for that specific business. And oftentimes you don't, you just put it out there. But I do think that we're tired of it means that it's at least breaking through, that we need to go beyond ROAS and we need to understand what incrementality is.
I completely 100% agree. And I think it's one of these things that like incrementality is like analytics, statisticians speak. Like that's who I want to hear about from incrementality. And then of course we're all marketers. And so we just like marketified it. That's a word. It's not a word. But we just kind of we just got too lenient with it. And so I just would like us to kind of take a step back. And I agree with you, ROAS completely should be banished. I think that should be dead and gone. But I really would like us to start being more thoughtful about how we talk about incrementality, and banishing the word for me will make us all just say what we mean and let's just be honest with each other about it.
And how you action on it, right?
Yeah.
Like I think a lot of times now it serves almost as a checkbox of like,
incrementality.
But now it's like, okay, how do I actually drive incrementality? What are the things I need to do to optimize my campaigns against that? I think that's like the next frontier that needs to be figured out.
Yeah, and when you start, I've been a big, hater on incrementality, not hater, critic of incrementality for a while. And again, we run incrementality tests and do all of the things, but I'm very skeptical, so I always ask questions, and I'm sure to many of our vendors dislike. Try to really dig into say, what is it? What is this actually all about? But once you start thinking about it that way, you can't unhear how many times people say incrementality or incremental. It's almost, make it a drinking game or something like that, and you won't make it through a meeting. So.
That's the next game show.
Okay,
we'll be doing.
my next one?
No, just kidding. The next one, yes,
Oh,
please.
sorry. My next one, thank you for giving me this flexibility, this is really poorly written, so I apologize. My PDP obsession, right? Because we spent the last 10 years telling marketers that your PDP was the end-all be-all, right? It was a place that consumers learned about your product, they made a decision, and they purchased, right? And while we're all playing around with A+ modules, the decision process, it moved elsewhere, right? Where did it go? Rufus, Sparky, ChatGPT, Reddit, TikTok, all of these different places. Rufus has over 300 million users, and if you engage with Rufus, you're almost 60% more likely to convert than if you saw a PDP alone, right? ChatGPT and other LLMs, they drove, I think it was 20% of Cyber Week traffic in 2025, and Reddit has 40 million daily searches for people looking for products and services, right? And we're all here just playing around with our PDP. And I'm not saying that doesn't matter. It does matter. It's impactful, right? But when I talk to brands, they're still thinking about a PDP as a consumer-facing sales tool. And yes, it is that, but it's also a data training layer for LLMs, right? And we need to treat it as such. Because for us as marketers to win in 26 and beyond, we need to be in all of the all the places that decisions are being made. And increasingly, those places are Reddit, ChatGPT, Rufus, Sparky, TikTok, right? So I would like to banish our obsession with the PDP.
I agree. I will say, and you touched on this as well, is that I think it's both. It's both. You still do need to be obsessed with the quality of your PDP, both for the old reasons, but also for the agentic reasons, right? Because it is informing all of those spaces and is how you show up in the LLM. So I do think that we need to continue to think about the relationship and not just obsess over the PDP, but obsess where discoverability is going to, which your point is, discoverability is going into the LLMs. But to connect the dots, if your PDP and all of your own properties aren't optimized to be findable by the agentic models, then you're not going to show up in these other places.
Exactly.
So I think that, yes, we need to not have that singular obsession, but instead understand how all of it is interconnected to each other.
Completely agree.
Yeah, it's like the equivalent back day of like optimizing your PDPs for Google PLAs, right?
Exactly.
So now it's just like it's serves a different purpose, but it's still important.
Yeah, it just feels that when we're talking to brands, I don't want to say they're slower to adopt that, but it's still very much, this is a sales tool for consumers, this is a sales tool for consumers, and we're saying yes, and, right? It's yes, and. It's not either or. So I'd like us to just open our eyes a little bit wider, follow the customer, find where they are discovering our products, and make sure that we are doing everything possible to be visible in those spaces.
You know what's going to be hard for everybody out there is if you think about it, everything that we wrote down, it's all connected.
It's all connected.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it's like you can't talk about incrementality in a way that you're not defining or fixing the fragmentation.
Exactly.
Right? And you can't optimize to the customer experience if all you're doing is optimizing inventory to the PDP. So like they're all just, it's all interconnected, and that's really the responsibility of all of us here is to continue to really drive forward that interconnectivity. And I would argue the customer is at the center of it. So,
Well, good timing, because we're going to get to voting. Okay, if everyone can scan that QR code here, we will get a live view of who's winning. We'll give it about 2 minutes, and whoever wins gets this incredible
I didn't know there
prize.
was a prize.
There's a prize.
wait, but she got 2 chances to win.
We have prizes for everyone in the back.
That's a good one.
That's
Do you
awesome.
guys make that yourself?
Well, you know, actually, it looks like you're having some favorable.
Oh, come on. I might still have a chance. Come on.
No, don't influence their decisions. Let them decide.
All right, everyone, around about 1 more minute until we close the panels here.
I can even see the numbers.
All right, it looks like having 2 didn't really throw it over too much.
No.
You're flanking.
One gauging the audience to see if everyone looks finished on their phones. All right. Wow. Landslide here. Congratulations, Molly.
Oh, no.
You
it
at least
wasn't
get to
me.
touch it. Megan.
False incrementality.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. And it goes into the.
Go back. Is there a back?
It's supposed to go in here and do some sort of fun thing. But we have a winner here.
Thank you. I'm glad everybody agrees.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.